What's good, y'all? You know who it is. It's your boy, Big Tank Hank, coming at you with another live stream. And tonight, we got a subject that's pretty near and dear to my heart as of late here recently. I'm dabbling a little bit in, not landscaping, aquascaping side. And we got somebody who's actually killing it in this aquascaping game. And he's doing very big things in the world in aquascaping, but most definitely here in the United States. I'm about to bring him up. JJ's Aquariums.
Hey, what's up,
Wow.
everybody?
What's happening, sir?
What's up?
What's going on? Thank you
So,
for coming in.
thanks for having me. I know you asked me quite a while back, getting on here, and I finally made it.
Hey, most definitely. We welcome you. We welcome you. We're gonna see who's in the chat, who's in here first, and then we're gonna have you give them a little introduction of yourself. Thunder Aquatics, let's go. Elbow call. Big Easy, what's going on? Seaweed, hello, ma'am. Lori, Monster Fish Gal, hello. Freaky Fish Lady, what's going on? Casual, what's going on? Levi's Aquatics, what's happening? What's happening? Renee, what's going on? TNS Aquatics, what's happening? John Manro, what's going on? All right, that's everybody. So, sir, give them a little introduction of yourself. Introduce them to the small you and bring them up to the big you, and then we're going to dive in.
All right. So, my name's Johnny Johnson. Of course, that's where the JJ comes from, Johnny Johnson, and I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, so here in the Midwest. And so the way I started out was probably a little more advanced than most people. I definitely did a lot of research before I started the hobby about 12 years ago. So I think, 12 years ago. So I was about 8 or 9 is when I started, and I started with a 10-gallon kit, just your normal Algae black rim tank with the hang on the back, and basically just a kit from Petco or PetSmart. And I learned from that for a little bit. I had that for about a year. Kept some fish. It was obviously fake plastic plants, and that gave me a learning experience. And then from that, I jumped from a bigger tank, 40 gallons. It was a bow front. I actually did a rock scape in there. That was kind of like my first tank with actually, real stone in it and nothing fake. It was serious stone, some sand, and basically it was a tank, just a big community tank, a bunch of tetras of sorts, even some rainbows here and there. And then from that tank is when I actually got into what I do today, which is aquascaping. And so it only took me about 4 or 5 years before I actually jumped into a lot of this high-tech stuff. So I started with a 20-gallon, which is what actually got a lot of people that found my channel, was from that 20-gallon. It was more considered low tech. It didn't have CO2, but it still looked really good, and it inspired a lot of people that they could do the same. And so it was a really great tank for people to learn off, and of course me as well. And I had that tank running for about 3.5 years, and I ran my channel just off that one tank for that entire period of time. And then once I graduated high school and I started getting a job and money, that's when we built this house that I'm in now last year, and I started to afford a lot of these more high-tech systems. And my first tank was this 90p behind me, and then it just grew from there. Now I'm up to 12 tanks and have my own clients now. So it's been wild. So I am like I said, Aquascaper, and I've done contests around the world. I've done the ADA contest for about 3 years now, and I do a couple other contests that are actually local here in the United States. And this year I've ranked #1 in nano tanks, 3rd in mid-sized tanks, and then the years before that I've averaged about top 10 here in the United States. So yeah, this year was my highest ranking, and now we're here today. I've started to do my own clients now. I'm starting aquascaping for people. Basically, my message of what I'm trying to do is bring aquascaping more to the United States. Everybody sees the nice, fancy products everybody else has across seas, and and we just don't get that here in the United States very rarely. And I want to be able to bring plant tanks because I feel like it's just not a known subject here. A lot of people don't even know it's a thing. I work at a local fish store on the weekend, and it just amazed me. I never knew until I worked there, until I realized how many people do not know about planted tanks. They just don't even know it's a thing. And it's really, I want to basically open people's eyes to where seeing that kind of prove the false messages of reef tanks look better and are more colorful. I want to kind of change that message around and show people that planted tanks can look almost just as good or even better, really, in my opinion. So that's kind of been my goal for, the last couple of years. And I really want to push that. And my ultimate goal is to actually, and this will happen just not anytime soon, is I'll actually be opening my own store. It'll be a planted tank store and nature shop. And I basically want to bring a lot of those products here to the United States, especially in the Midwest where it's even more rare to see this type of stuff. And I just want to share planted tanks and keep spreading it and hopefully, in the future, there'll be more people will be doing planted tanks.
Okay. Yeah, I think planted tanks have become quite the thing here recently. I mean, they've always been popular, but I've been noticing a trend, one of those cyclical type of things. Before we get real deep, because I want to go a little deep, for the fledgling, because I saw somebody over there saying this is the subject that they needed to proceed with. For fledgling Aquascaper, where should they start, in your opinion?
So I think the best way to start, because planted tanks, I will say, I mean, compared to like reef tanks or any of that and having coral, I think planted tanks are the hardest tanks to do. There's a lot involved to keep plants alive, but it's really not as hard when you can break it down into little steps. And there's always great books, and there's a couple of books I will recommend tonight to people that can really help them start small and hopefully get more and more advanced. But I think the best way to start is, at least how I started, was looking at nature and almost just mimicking nature, recreating stuff I see. I mean, every time I see a picture of nature online or something, I always save it and keep it in my collection, and maybe I can use that for inspiration off tanks one day. So if we're talking about the creation process of Aquascape, that'd be my advice, is just to start pay attention to nature more. It's crazy when you start looking at nature and looking at its finest details, how much more you notice. And you go on trails, you go on walks, and just look at the fine details. Look at that piece of moss that's growing on the log, and look at all the fine crumble of the rocks, and just look how nature itself just looks so great, and how the detail of nature just translates, to our aquariums.
Okay. So outside of I may be going too fast for some of our people watching, but I'm asking this question. Outside of ADA, are there any other comparable aquascaping companies?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, ADA is just the one that really started it all for most people. And of course, to this day, they have some of the nicest products. It's what I use. I think they just visually look nice, and obviously they work great. But you got so many companies these days, at least to name some top ones. You got UNS. They make great roomless tanks, great plant tank equipment in general. UNS, who else is? You got Waterbox making roomless tanks now. I mean, but if we're talking about planted tank equipment, definitely ADA is definitely, when it comes to substrate, lighting, hardscape, tanks themselves, the filtration, definitely that's where it's at. But, you even got Greenleaf Aquariums. They're a company here in the United States that's, creating really nice filtration now, plants, substrate. You got Tropica. Tropica's another big one. They've been around actually longer than ADA. At least in the plant game, they've been making plants and potted plants for about 50 years. And they now have soils and root tabs, just everything you need for plant tanks. They're really great. So there's other companies too, but most companies just specialize in like CO2 or just lighting. So just to name a few that has, multiple things, but I can get into, specific sites if we need to for, certain equipment for sure.
Okay, that's cool. Give us a a breakdown of rules, some of the rules that you have to deal with going into aquascaping on the contest side of things.
So for a contest, they look for many things. Of course, the quality of the scape. Scale is also a big one. Of course, the bigger goal is to always create a tank that looks bigger than it actually is. And so you'll see people, with 10, 20 gallons, consider nano size, and nobody would ever guess they're 20 gallons. Some people will think they're a couple hundred. So stuff like that's really, really difficult to do. It definitely takes time and learning. Golden ratio is also a bigger one. There's a lot of techniques and to achieve that, but yeah, it's just a learning step. I mean, it's definitely difficult. I mean, I've seen people, start out aquascaping, and there's just little things that they might, do wrong at first, like having the substrate way too high in the front, or even depth. Some people won't have any depth. Sloping the soil from having it really thin in the front to really high in the back. Just little things like that help create depth, and of course, and then you're talking about the scape itself. Just knowing how to create something that's visually nice and also different too, because one thing with contests is they really don't want to see people creating the same things. If you're wanting to win contest, you want to be different, and that's really with everything. You just want to be somebody that does something different. And so every year when you see the winning works, at least top 3 or higher, you always see something different every year. So when you're somebody that can do something that nobody's seen before, you're already ahead of the game for sure.
Okay. Golden ratio. I saw that in a chat last week sometime. Explain to the people exactly what that is.
So golden ratio, I mean, it applies in actually like, artists and people that draw and stuff like that and paint. It's actually a pretty a used method in all sorts of things. But the golden ratio basically, without actually showing it, it's kind of difficult. But basically, you basically want, like, say for example, I guess the easiest way, say if this 90p was in golden ratio. So basically the golden ratio, basically you get an exiting point, and basically it'll spin around. And basically that center point is your golden ratio, and you basically want that to be your most detailed, even maybe biggest piece. And so say for example, this 90p, the golden ratio, if it was coming to this left side, the golden ratio would be right where this big rock is. This is your main focus. So it just starts to flow the tank. You look at that big, nice, big detailed rock first, and it kind of just creates the flow of the tank, going that way. It's one of those things. It's one of those things you have to learn over time, and it's kind of hard to explain it really. I mean, even I still am learning how to use golden ratio to its advantage. Yeah, golden ratio just basically is just basically it's where your most detailed and biggest piece will be, in simple terms.
Okay. Yeah, because I've noticed myself. I don't know if people pay much attention, like when you get a haircut and barbers fade. When barbers fade, I used to cut a little hair, but the hardest thing to do is to fade someone's hair properly. And that is how I look at aquascaping. I mean, for somebody like myself to look at, let's say, one of your tanks, and then look at mine, and then look back at yours, and then look at mine, there's nothing in my imagination that shows me how to even do it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, I'm like, oh my God, look at his. He did this. That's so wonderful. Especially when you're talking about the slope. Let's say you got your carpet implant and it tapers back, and then you got this rock here, and you may have some moss over there that's just the right size scale. You were speaking of just the right size here. I mean, it just fits. Man, I can't begin to even imagine anything that I put together coming close. Dude, when I say that's a real talent, hey, you got it, man. You got it. I'm gonna give you flowers while you're here. You do that, because I can't. When I say no imagination, I just look at it and like, oh my God, this looks okay, but I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, that's
something that was just That was just something you just had, or you had to work on it?
It's a little both. I would definitely say it's definitely comes natural. Most people, just like how most people come natural to painting or drawing. Some people can just pick up a pencil and draw something beautiful. So I think I have a little bit of that. I'm good at creating things. I have imagination, but it all goes back to looking at nature too. When you can start actually visually looking at nature and pay attention to it and learning from nature itself, it helps you convert that to the aquarium world where it, you get better at just creating something that looks more natural and kind of back to golden ratio. If you have, say if you have this big rock like mine, and say if you have two of those exact same size on the right and left, well, it's just going to look weird. And that's why the golden ratio is what it is so you only have that one focal point and not two. It just throws off scale and depth and everything.
Okay, you just said something right now that tapped into part of the things that confused me in my mind. Like you saying, okay, you're showing your one rock and working off of that. And if you have two, saying it just looks, it just it looks funny. I agree. And but there's a part of me that would say, hey, you could do that. You battle against it. Like, I guess thinking a novice is thinking more is better rather than less is more. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's why Igumi's Atashi Amano, when he started Aquascaping, that's why Igumi's kind of became so popular. And when he first started doing Igumi's, it was the fact that it was so simple but looked so good. And it's kind of when you look at this tank, it's there's not much there. The hardscape's literally nothing, but it looks so good at the same time. And so that's what kind of made Igumi's what it is. And of course, Igumis aren't the easiest tank to take care of because there's less plant mass, and so more algae issues occur. So it looks simple, but it's one of the hardest aquascapes to achieve and do it good and do it to the standards of the people that came before us. But yeah, it's sometimes simple is just it is better.
Gotcha. So, what are the different types of scapes out there, name wise?
So everybody kind of calls it different depending on where you're at, but the main types would definitely be number one being nature style, and basically what defines a nature tank is basically the use of wood and stone. Kind of like how this tank is, where we have stone and wood. So basically, any scape with wood and stone, it will basically be considered nature aquarium any of the day. The next one would definitely be back to Igumi, where you're using just stones and no stems at all, just carpet or mid-ground. And then to add on to the Igumi, there's a style called Brazilian, which is basically taking an Igumi setup but adding stems to it. And that's what would be considered a Brazilian style. And if I'm able to find, I have the contest book right next to me, because I know a Brazilian's kind of hard to. So let's see here. So at least a guy that I know did this scape. Let's see. So this is an Iagumi with carpeted, but at the same time, you can see he has all these stems in the back. And so this is what a Brazilian style tank would look like. So if you took away the stems, it would be Iagumi, but if you add those stems to the back like he did, this would be considered Brazilian. And the last style, and there's styles that go in between even those two, nature and Igumi, but the last main one would be a Dutch style. And a Dutch style is basically a scape with basically no scape at all. It's no wood, no rock. It's just plants in general. And even my little card here that I use for clients. So a Dutch aquarium would be just like this one here, where there's no scape, no stone, no wood. It's just pure plants, which is another. It sounds simple and easy, but to get it to look right, where and it's a lot to trim too. There's a lot of trim when it comes to a Dutch. So you can just see the depth and layers you see of these scapes, where it's from. You start with your carpeting, your mid grounds, and it just slowly gets taller and taller throughout the back. You're adding all that depth, and so I would say actually Dutch is one of the harder ones to do, because especially when it runs through too, that is a tank that you're going to be trimming probably twice a week to keep it to that high standard. But yeah, nature, Igumi, Dutch, and then also Brazilian, just kind of in between nature and Igumi. Those are kind of the three main three or four styles that are out there and the most popular used, and especially contest.
Okay. I had to get rid of. We got some. I don't know if it's Russian or not, but we got some bites. I don't know what you even call them that pops in there.
Yeah.
Don't understand. Let's get rid of that. But yeah, the one with the plants. I was going to ask about the trimming aspect to give that look of separation between all of the plants. I mean, that would have to be like every 2 days you trimming on that, huh?
Oh, for sure. And everybody has their different styles when it comes to Dutch, so some are easier than others, but for sure, I mean, you can see how some people will really round off their stems and do some crazy shapes. And yeah, it's one of the most intuitive scapes out there for sure, because I mean, just trimming once a week is kind of a hassle sometimes for me. And yeah, I can only imagine, with those tanks, to make it look like that 24/7, you're going to be trimming at least 2 or 3 times a week for sure.
Gotcha. You running CO2 or not?
I am. So I haven't done a non-CO2 tank in probably 5 years. So yeah, all my tanks run CO2 for sure. I mean, that just obviously enhances the plant growth. I mean, if you're looking for lush growth, the coloration, especially in like the red plants, you really can't achieve that without CO2. There's few little plants that will do okay without it. So yeah, if you're really looking to grow pretty much anything on the market, yeah, CO2 is definitely a must for sure.
That's cool. So, ADA, I've noticed on the internet there's like ADA shops and things of that nature, but not so much here. Would that be something you would be interested in starting?
Yeah, so that's kind of my ultimate goal is, to start a nature shop in general, but then yeah, carry more ADA. So we only have one ADA distributor here in the United States, and that's Aqua. And they're obviously the few shops that are ADA retailers here in the US, that's where their products come from, are Aqua. That's the distributor here. And actually the shop that I work at is an ADA retailer, so that's what's nice about that. We're the only ones in the Midwest that are. And the rest of them are more on the California coastlines. I think there's about 6 or so there. There's quite a bit in Florida too. So yeah, most of them are on the coast. And then there's literally the store that I work at that's right in the middle of the United States, and that's about it. So yeah, it's a very, very small market.
It's a gig boy twice a week. I don't even do twice a month, and it shows, huh? Okay. So, oh yes, man. If you wanted to do a contest no, I'm not gonna phrase it like that. Usually, what is the duration of time it takes for you to get ready for a competition? Like how far out?
So this is at least how I do it. So I usually have the scape in mind already planned, and that could be anywhere from 6 months to a year in advance. And that just basically gives me time to, create some, of course, like I said, doing something different is definitely a big thing. So having that time to have time to think, get inspiration from others, think of how to create something new. And I'll always have so much hardscape, like behind this door where I keep all my tools. I have about 500 pounds of wood, 500 pounds of stone at all times on me, so I can constantly be creating something. I'm looking to create something new. And but by the time you scape the tank, usually most plant tanks are in their prime in that 5 to 6, 7 month mark. So kind of a half a year mark is when a plant tank looks its best to where it's ready for a contest. So like, for example, the ADA one, usually submissions start in about April, May. And so usually my personal preference is I usually will try to at least start it by January, but best if I can, I usually start it in December to give me an extra month. And that usually gives me about, 6 months to get it fully established and trimmed and looking, good for the camera when the time comes.
Okay, okay. And what are they looking for the most part? When you submit a photo, what is it that you're trying to capture that's going to capture their eye?
So basically, what these guys are going to be looking for is they basically want to see the picture and not even know it's an aquarium. When you can fool them and basically if it looks like you just went underwater and took a picture, that's going to be a big advantage for what these guys are looking for. And other ways we actually do that is, of course, having great cameras, great lighting, and there's a lot of great photographers that can do that, and you see it in the contest with a lot of these high res photos. And one of the biggest things they look for is obviously equipment in the water is going to catch the eye immediately. It's not going to look natural when you see equipment. So when we actually take final photos, we actually take all the equipment out, wave pumps, lily pipes. If we have heaters, literally anything that's in the water column, we take out for the picture. And yeah, as long as you make it look like it's not an aquarium, I mean, you're already steps above everybody else.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad we got to that aspect because I see some of them and I'm like, man, they can make it and put it together like that with no filter and
Mm-hmm.
just, that's off the hook. Yeah, me and not having no idea
Yeah.
that they took them out for the photos.
Yeah, of course. And then it just goes along some of the more common stuff like they look at plant health, how healthy are the plants. And then, of course, they going back to the scape, they're looking at depth, if they can tell that it's a smaller tank, that's an immediate turnoff. And so when it's hard for them to guess the size, that's another thing that will always get you ranked higher. And then fish choice is actually another thing. It affects your ranking very small, but fish choice is something they look at. Again, going back to depth and fish size, if it doesn't look correct to the scape, that will definitely knock some points off. But then again, if you're taking your photo and you have your fish in a perfect schooling, getting that perfect shot of the fish in the scape is also something that catches their eye as well. Just a really nice photo will get you somewhere.
Okay. Geek Boy said, where's the shop that you work at?
So the shop that I work at is called Picasso Exotic Aquatics. We're actually in Kansas. I'm in Kansas City, so Kansas is literally about 10 minutes down the street, so I'm just right on the borderline. But yeah, it's a shop in Leawood, Kansas. We specialize in basically high-end aquascaping. We also do reef tanks as well. We serve over about 300 clients. We're actually the biggest maintenance team here in Kansas and Missouri. And then, of course, going back, we are the only ADA retailer as well. So, yeah, it's a really nice shop, and I'm glad to work at it because not that I don't have to work there, but it also gives me experience. And I like to, when I first applied there, I wanted to basically get experience of what it's like to work in a store because I didn't know if I was ever going to run my own, if I was going to like it or not. So now that I've been working there and managed that store for the last couple of years, I've ended up really enjoying it, and I've stuck around. But it's definitely helped me learn the process of actually running a fish store and even the finances behind it too, which is something that a lot of people struggle with.
Oh, so you actually manage?
Yeah, so there's a obviously I'm a carpenter full time, so I'm not there working full time. I mean, sometimes when I get laid off and stuff, I'll be there full time, but we have a main manager that will run the place. But then, yeah, on the weekends, it's all me. All clients go back to me. I take all phone calls. Yeah, basically, I just am the man in charge when it comes to the weekends.
Okay. So do you take your own photos or do you outsource it?
You said quotes?
No, photos like for your submission.
Oh, photos. So ever since the start of this year, yes, I've took my own photos, but now I actually have my own photographer that I pay. He has a lot nicer equipment. He definitely knows more about taking photos than I do on the aspects of what contest people are looking for. So yeah, so this next coming contest, I'll actually have somebody else from moving forward taking photos for me for sure.
Okay. We have a question. Aquafunk says, When people set up these aquascapes for a one-day show, realistically, how long do they really last? I thought scapes took time to grow in properly.
So the way they're doing that is, and a great example is actually Green Aqua on YouTube. They actually tend to do this too when they film videos, just so they can get the final result faster. So basically, what they're doing is already using a lot of grown-in plants. They plant very densely, so it gives it the appearance that it's already grown in. And talking about it lasting, I mean, as long as they're running it properly, it'll last just as long as any other plant tank. But yeah, that's how they're making it look like it's been going in for 6 months or more, is because they're planting very densely or using already really grown in plants for sure.
Okay, okay. So how do you choose your livestock, and what is the importance at this time of the livestock to you in the hobby?
So livestock for me at this point, when I first started out, of course, fish is what got me into the hobby, just like everybody else. But once I started aquascaping, and fish really just became final detail to me. They were just that extra added detail and photos, and of course, I still like fish, of course, but yeah, they just became detailed to me. And a lot of the fish that I use and some of my favorites are really just nano fish, anything from nano rasboras, tetras, stuff like that, stuff that's actually going to really make the scale and depth of your tank a lot bigger. Like, we're going back to those contest photos, having scale is really important. So if you have a really small thing of schooling fish in a larger system, it's going to make that tank even larger looking. So, and that goes for nanos as well. Trying to make a nano look a lot larger using smaller fish for sure works great. Of course, if you use a bigger fish, say like rainbow fish, and a smaller system, it's just going to throw off the scale. So choosing fish for Aquascape, you just got to really pay attention to what's going to look right. And of course, if you're not doing aquascapes for contests, it really doesn't matter. You can pick fish that you just simply enjoy. But when you're doing for contests, definitely pick fish that are going to fit the scale and make your tank, even enhance your tank. We look at color too. If you have a lot of green in your tank, we would typically look for a lot of reds in the fish, something that's going to pop a little bit more, especially in the photos. And vice versa. If there's a lot of red, we try to pick something that's going to contrast with that red stems. So yeah, we just, anything to make the fish pop more is, how we choose some of our fish.
Okay, okay. So, you say you have clients.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you do for your clients in total?
So I do everything from obviously ordering the equipment, doing scapes for people. So just like you see all my scapes, I do exactly that for customers. I work with them for a couple weeks, usually not longer than that. I'll try to actually do some concepts for them, do a couple different styles of scapes, take pictures, send it to them, and see what they like. And then yeah, once we get something that they like, I go to their house and basically recreate that, do from hardscaping, planting it, flooding it, all the way from basically maintaining it for them. Some people, they'll do it themselves, but most of the time they will have me do it, just because if they don't have any education on how to care for one, they'll just have me do it. So yeah, I do everything from setting up to maintaining it long term.
Okay, okay. What's your go-to substrate?
So my go-to for sure, which is hard to get right now because COVID has shut down materials for them to make it, but it's definitely 88 Amazonia version 1. It's the OG soil that basically everybody has used since day one. It's the most nutrient based, which can cause problems at the beginning, but long term it lasts the longest. So basically, what I always tell people, at least in the store on the weekends, is they always ask, why is this substrate $80 a bag, and why is this one at PetSmart 20 bucks? And basically, the real difference is obviously the nutrients, but the biggest thing is how long it's going to last. So 88 Amazonia, your nutrients will last, depending on the scape, 2 years or more, no more than 3 usually. But a $20 substrate, you'll be lucky to even get a year out of it, maybe 6 months before you have to remineralize it and put root tabs and basically make it nutrient based again. So that's the real difference. So really any of them will work. It's just basically how I tell people is when you do a scape, how long are you planning on keeping this scape for? Like my contest scapes, they're usually only last a year before I'm returning them down and doing something different. So would I really need ADA? Not really, but it's just what I go with, and of course that's what it's available to me. But pick your substrate depending on how long your tank's really going to be set up for.
Okay. We got a few new people that have fell in the house. Let's see if we can run back and catch up on some of these hellos. Melvin Reef, what's going on? Geek Boy, what's happening, sir? Crystal's Pets and Plants. Howdy, ma'am. Howdy. Skipper. Oh, well, Skipper went to bed. But Skipper, how you doing? How you doing? Let me see. John Manroe, did I get you? Aquafunk shot in with a question. Made sure we knew he was here. Atkins, what's going on, Ian? Hippie John the Fisherman. ADHD Aquatics. Rob's Aquarium Room. What's going on? All right. We caught up. Proceed, we say, what is your favorite easy to grow ground cover plant?
So if you're doing non-CO2, probably the best options are like dwarf hairgrass, cryptoparva. Both of those, it just depends. Some people don't really like the grassy look. I tend to like Monte Carlo and Cuba a little bit better just because to me, they look a little more natural, but they also both need CO2 to really do well. But yeah, if you're looking for an easy one, cryptoparva, dwarf hairgrass is definitely an easy one. They'll both take a little bit longer for sure to carpet without CO2, but it can be done. Same for Monte Carlo as well. One thing that actually made my old 20 gallon really popular years ago was I was able to do a full carpet of Monte Carlo with no CO2, which was a first for a lot of people back then. And as long as you have the time and patience, it'll grow for you. But like that 20 gallon, it probably took about 9 months to a year to carpet a 20 gallon without CO2. So if you have the patience, it'll do it. But yeah, CO2 definitely. With CO2, I can carpet even these big tanks within a month or two. So it's a big difference.
Okay. Now, without CO2, is it the substrate that's the secret for getting a full carpet of that Monte Carlo?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Substrate's definitely, because obviously carpeting plants are root feeders. So yeah, having a nutrient substrate is definitely what's keeping it going, especially in a low tech. And going back to my 20 gallon, that one actually had 88 Amazonia, so a very nutrient substrate. Something that you usually don't use in low techs, but if you're wanting to do, I would say if you're ever wanting to do a carpet in low tech, just make sure you have really good substrate to substitute that, and you should be fine. And with patience, you'll get there.
Okay. Algae.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to I'm a hair algae guy. I don't mind seeing hair algae. I kind of like to see it. But I know in what you do, that's a no-no. So how do you keep it at bay? I mean,
so the great thing about plant tanks is having a big plant mass. Plants obviously are a natural filter, so plants will help fight that algae long term. And when you have a very densely planted tank, you'll almost never see algae ever. And obviously, it all starts from the beginning, though. So obviously, in the beginning, you're going to have ammonia trying to cycle your tank, especially with the substrates like ADA and some of these more nutrient substrates. There's going to be a lot of ammonia that leaches, and so you will see algae in the beginning most of the time. And the way I combat that is obviously I'm dosing beneficial bacteria to help cycle the tank faster. So we have to deal with that for less time. But the biggest thing is with my high tech setups, I do daily 50% water changes for the first month, which freaks people out because that is a lot of water. But that's how I haven't really seen algae in my tanks, at least from starting up, in probably 4 years from doing that. And I've never seen a lick of algae from the start in some of my tanks. And one of the big things to help too is already using cycled media, and that's how I'll do all my tanks. Is I'll basically load my canisters up with already cycled media to where basically the tank's good to go from the start. You're going to have less plants melting. Everything's going to grow in faster. Your tank's already cycled, and the faster you can get your plants to grow in, the faster they're going to combat that algae too. So, and of course, over time, when your tanks are stable and you're ammonia free, and most of the time algae is never really a problem.
Okay. What's your filter of choice?
So I'm a looks kind of guy. So obviously with my tanks, I like everything to look visually good inside and out. And so it's expensive, but I do like the 88 Superjets with the stainless steel look. It's actually what runs this tank. It looks nice when you open up the cabinet. It just looks real nice and professional. But the filter I definitely recommend for everybody is the Awazas. Awaza definitely makes the best canister on the market right now with all the built-in features like the pre-filter that easily comes out for maintenance. So you never really have to actually get in the canister itself. And then obviously the integrated heaters as well makes a huge difference, especially in these contest tanks where we don't want really any equipment at all in our tank. So having that integrated heater in those canister filters are a big help in hiding the equipment as well.
Okay. That guy from Texas. Who is that guy from Texas? Is that somebody lurking? Identify yourself. So, what would you say is the biggest challenge, or might still be, I don't know, in the competition side when you're talking about competing with the world and not having the opportunity to come close to even seeing the majority of the people's go-to works?
Mm-hmm. So I would say definitely the biggest thing is kind of going back to what I originally said was creating something different and new and innovative. Because it's very easy to copy somebody for sure. You know, you see Aquascape you like, it's very easy to do something somebody's already done. And I tend to do the same thing too. You know, I see a tank I like, and you know, sometimes without even realizing it, I'm creating something that somebody else has already done. And that's really the hardest thing to be, even to this day. I mean, it's every Aquascaper has this challenge. It's just doing something different. It's hard to. There's so many great tanks that's already been made. But that's the great thing about aquascaping is there's so many different pieces of wood, rock. Nature just comes in so many shapes and sizes that there's always something new and different that can be created that's definitely never been done. It's just the challenge is just finding that.
So Melvin say, have you done a desert aquascape or a mountain aquascape?
Not desert, but mountain. I guess you could say, this Iagumi, you can probably say is, mountain-ish. And I've done other rock-only scapes that definitely would mimic mountains for sure. Sometimes you have to be careful, though, especially with stuff like that, is sometimes mountains can look you almost look like you're trying to create something that's not out of water and putting it underwater, than trying to actually create something that looks like nature's. Because obviously mountains aren't really, you don't see mountains underwater really. So sometimes if you're trying to do contests, sometimes you have to be careful like that, because I see people actually like trying to like almost like mimic like cities in Escape. And sometimes it could work if it could work, but you do have to be kind of careful when you're doing that type of stuff. Is definitely stay away from some of the stuff that's out of water for sure.
Gotcha. So those would be niche in themselves. Are there contests for those types of things? Because I'm assuming if you're creating a mountainscape per se, you would even want it to seem like there's no water in the tank at all when you take the photos. So is there actually a place for that?
So the biggest one, 88, not really. It's just, it comes down, there's no category. It's just who has the best to last. but there is a contest called the AGA, which is an actual United States-based contest. It's still worldwide, but it's done here in the United States. And that contest, what's great about that contest, and that's the contest that actually was number one in the United States for nano tanks, is what's great about them is they have categories. So there's not just one winner, there's actually 5 or 6 winners. They have a winner for basically nano tank, mid-sized tank, large systems, and then they also go to terrariums, planetariums. What else do they do? And stuff like that. They just have a winner for every type of category, which is really nice. So there's not just one winner; there's kind of multiple.
Gotcha. Oh, and I want to let the chat know I found out something ironic. JJ and my uncle has the same name. They call us Uncle JJ for short also, but his name is Johnny E. Johnson.
Yep.
And JJ's name is Johnny E. Johnson also. Their E's are different, but they're still E's. Yeah, I thought that was very cool. But do you have any tanks that are just like I don't even want to use the term show tank, but a tank that you just have running, that you just like what's in it, you know, it's like a departure from the actual Aquascape mindset?
Yeah, I would say like definitely all my tanks. I'm just so used to creating something that just visually looks nice for everybody. So I always have that mindset going into tanks. But yeah, there's definitely tanks for sure that'll never be contest tanks. You can't really see them, but I have 2 shallows right next to me that are shrimp tanks. Real nice aquascapes, but they'll never be contest tanks. They're more just for breeding shrimp colonies, some really nice colonies, some high-end breeds. And this will be a contest tank this year, but after that, it's actually just going to be a tank more for me to look at for the coming years and also have shrimp in them. And I also have another couple of tanks at my mom's office. I actually have a couple of tanks in her dental office that are purely just for other people to look at, and that will never really be contest tanks for my own stuff, but just for audience to get inspiration from, and just just a tank to kind of try new things in. I keep a lot of more rare plants in that tank as well, so it's a tank that I definitely want running for years to come and just grow out some really cool rare species.
Okay, good deal. So have you had any clients that dabbled in a competition?
Not yet. There's definitely people that I think would be interested for sure. They're definitely learning off me, and obviously when I come to the house, there's we always have long conversations of me doing the work, but also kind of teaching them and showing them how it's done. And so one day that they could kind of pass on the information, just kind of spread it. But not at the moment, but I think eventually there's some people that definitely have some talent out there that I think would be interested in jumping into that world.
Okay. Who would you say is a standout in your mind, in your realm right now? Like who has the hot hand?
In terms of aquascaping?
Yes.
That would definitely be, unfortunately he's gone now, but Atashi Amano's definitely was that top of like everybody looked up to him. All his works were definitely before our time for sure. But I would say definitely right now, some of the people that I look up to still would be Balaj from Green Aqua. I've been friends with him for many years, and I've only seen them just grow better and better, and I've definitely took a lot of inspiration from them, just from running a store wise to their aquascapes. I've always been a fan of Eurus, another popular aquascaper. He does a lot of clients as well, does a lot of nice aquascapes. And probably the last one, being my top 3, probably George Farmer. He's also done it since the early 2000s, so he's really been kind of the other person that's really started this, and he's wrote a lot of books and helped really jumpstart this hobby for sure. So those top 3 would probably be my biggest.
Okay. What do you think about is it MD Fish Keeping, or MD?
Yeah, MD.
Yeah. What do you think about his
Yeah, I like his work. He definitely takes a different approach, though. I mean, he's definitely not doing stuff for contests like I am, but he's definitely trying to teach people, same thing, get people into planet tanks and, push a different direction. And I think he's definitely a big DIYer too. How to do stuff cheaper and still efficient. So yeah, I really like what he's doing. Obviously, being a fan of getting more people into the planet hobby, which is always a plus too.
Gotcha. So Melvin is asking about island aquascapes. Is there a contest for island aquascapes?
Um, there might be. I don't know one offhand, but yeah, I there probably is some competitions for island skates, but island skates typically in contest, they're another one that's kind of difficult because with island scapes you really can't get a lot of depth, and with island scapes, so they're really two-dimensional most of the time. So it's really hard to create depth with something that's just right in the center of a tank, because most of the time you're just having an even amount of substrate around the whole scape. So it is harder. So that's probably why there hasn't been any really contest dealing in island scapes. But I could be wrong. But yeah, I think at least in my mind, I think that's why most people you haven't seen a lot of winning works in island scapes.
Okay. Is there any possible way to do saltwater aquascaping on a competition style level? Because I mean, you can aquascape almost anything per
Mhm.
se, but meaning the professional, like, hey, we could actually put this in a type of show. Is there? Because I can't say
Yeah,
I've seen anything, but
yeah, it's kind of funny because I've been kind of thinking the same thing. Talking with some of my other friends and coworkers about, like I was mentioning to them that I've never really seen a contest out there that deals with reef tanks, and I know there is little ones here and there, but there's not really like a big one like you see in plant tanks. And yeah, I mean, reef tanks are definitely different when it comes to aquascapes, but yeah, I mean, it's the same concept though. Creating depth. It's all the same thing. You're dealing with corals, which is kind of different because plants also um, help create the tank and the depth and creating shapes and trimming, and with corals you can't really do that because it's just one object that's just constantly growing bigger and bigger, so it's different. And I think that's why it hasn't really became really a contest type of thing, but I think it'd be cool. I'd be all for it. I do have one reef tank myself that's a 10 gallon, and I think it'd be cool. There's a lot of amazing reef tanks out there, so I would love to see it happen.
that's cool. Fantastic, freaks. Thank you for the super sticker, $3 super sticker. Thank you very much, sir. All right.
Let's see.
So, would you be interested in showing some of your tanks? Do you have ease of access? Because I don't want you to be like trying to take your laptop or nothing. And
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm through a camera on top of my laptop, so I really don't have any movement besides the monitor
gotcha,
itself. But yeah, I mean, you see the reef tank I was talking about, the other shallow tank, and then I don't even know if you can kind of see the pipes right here, but I also have another shallow right here, and then of course these two tanks behind me, and then I have another 5 or 6 tanks that are in my living area. They're around town, but yeah, unfortunately I can't get too close because the
gotcha,
camera's mounted. But
gotcha. Would the shallows be like the low boys?
yeah, pretty much. Shallows are at least with ADA, most are shallows. They'll take like a standard size, like say this 60 is a 60 piece, so usually a 2 foot tank by 12 inches tall. And basically, what they'll do is just split the tank right in half. And now this tank is probably about 5 or 6 inches tall. So yeah, they'll just take like their standard sizes and basically slice them in half. And so yeah, really to be considered a shallow. I mean, of course, the bigger you go, I mean, you can allow for different heights, but most shallows are no bigger than like 6 or 7 inches tall.
Okay. Are yours custom?
Mine are not. All the tanks I have around me are ADA. So ADA makes two shallow sizes, and that's the 45F and the 60F. The 60F is a 2-foot tank. It's right at 10 gallons. And then the 45F is an 18-inch tank, which is around like 5 gallons.
Okay. And can those be submitted into contests?
Oh, for sure. They'd be very hard to definitely create something that would, give that depth and sense of bigger. But yeah, you definitely can. There's lots of people that submitted shallow tanks, and going back to the AGA contest in the United States, there's a category just for tanks like this. They'd be considered like pond tanks almost, because obviously you're viewing them from the top most of the time anyway. So yeah, there's separate contests for them, but entering them in a world contest would probably be pretty difficult. You definitely would have to have a pretty insane tank to pull that off, but it can be done.
Okay, yeah, because you couldn't actually hide the tank in a photo.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And taking photos of a shallow, it would be cropped out so small that it just most of the time it doesn't work out as well. But that's why there's contests for those categories.
If you could do it, you could make a beautiful panoramic, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I've been so into shallows. They've been, and I think a lot of people are too. Just I like to always have my hardscape come out of the tank. I think that's always so natural and I like having plants, grow out of the tank as well. I think that's been a kind of a trend for everybody for the last couple of years, and I've been really into it. I think it's just really cool just having, especially when you're having stems come out the tank and you have like small killifish swimming in between all the plants at the surface, and it just looks so cool. It just makes it look like you're out in nature looking into little puddles. It's cool to me.
I'm right there with you, on that one. I'm forever with something sticking out of the top of my tank. That's very cool, very cool. What advice could you give for someone who's sitting right there in the chat or just watching the replay? Hey, you replay watchers, thank you for coming through. No matter what, watching this video, you're still getting the same insight that everybody got that was here live. And I'm glad to see you here. Thank you very much. Some kind of advice for them who might be thinking about getting into it for the contest aspect, not just like the novice wanting to start from scratch. So they may have a little experience already, but now they want to take it to the big league.
So I would say, going back, I would say just try to be different, but at the same time have fun, because I think with me too, and a lot of people, I think we think too much when we try to do these escapes. We're always, and that kind of freaks us out, and we end up creating something we don't like, and it seems forced basically. And I think if you just let your natural skills flow and have fun with it, you end up creating something way better at the end of the day. And I think the second thing of advice is just have patience, and that just goes for, I mean, even if you're just a newbie going to plant a tank hobby, it's just patience is the biggest thing I always tell people, because your first time is never going to be the correct way. You're going to fail a bunch when doing plant tanks at first. It's just how it is. I mean, I failed for 3 or 4 years straight before I got to the point where I can make a tank and actually have no algae and actually have it look really nice. And it takes time to really build your skill to the level of the expectations that you see in these judges. But if you just patience and just don't stop working, just keep working on your skill. Always, just like me, I mean, always do tanks. That's why I did clients, really not for the money aspect. It's really just so I can continue doing tanks. That's why I've also worked part-time at the store, is, to get experience in a store. But at the same time, it allowed me to actually keep aquascaping, because, I only have so much money to do it myself. So having another company, basically pay for my experience and allow me to just keep creating more and more tanks and just get better and better every day.
Gotcha. Still in you. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for that super chat. Very, very much, sir. All right. So, JJ, in an overall grand scheme of this here aquascaping and fish hobby period, what, or have you given much thought of what is it that you would like to see improved upon, or something that you would just like to see more of go on in the hobby?
Yeah,
Have you thought on that much?
I think the first thing talking about what I'd like to see is I think in general I just want to see more people doing this stuff. You know, with the contest there can always be more. I think it just becomes more fun when we just have more people involved and get more companies involved. One of the things I do actually want to see when we're talking about it improvement wise is I definitely want to see companies thinking out the box and, you know, basically just, you know, ADA is already way ahead when it comes to design aspect of plant tanks and making everything visually look nice. But I basically want to challenge other companies to do the same and create products that are really going to gear towards some of these nicer tanks and contest level tanks to where, you know, and I've seen a couple of companies like GLA start making stainless steel canisters, like just stuff, little things like that that just will add to our things. And plus, not everybody wants to spend the high dollar on ADA, and I totally get that. And so I want to see more companies make more affordable stuff that is also effective and works good as well. And you know, and then plus here in the United States, I just want to see more products that we're not able to get here too. I want to challenge more people and companies to bring some of these products that we're not able to get here in the United States that are kind of stopping us from doing some of this stuff. So I think that's what I'd like to see. And then, yeah, going back, I just want to see more people doing this stuff. I want to, you know, in the saying that saltwater tanks are always going to be the most colorful because they definitely are, you know, especially when you look at some of these plant tanks, I think they're some of the most pristine and cleanest tanks you'll see and some of the most natural you'll see. So that would be my message for going, you know, for 2022.
Okay. Craig Donegan, welcome. All right. 75-gallon Aquascape. I hear you. All right, we have hit the hour mark. It's time for us to go. JJ, thank you very much for coming in with us tonight. And it was everything that I thought it would be. Man, I am so impressed with your range of knowledge, man, in this period. You take this so very seriously, man, and that's refreshing. That's very refreshing. And man, all of the people I know that was here tonight and the ones that's gonna watch this replay, dude. You know,
Yeah, I
you've been
appreciate
a big help, dude. Oh my God. There's so many questions that were answered. Even there were some questions answered accidentally per se. Like the question wasn't even asked, but you know, you ran across this with a broad paintbrush. You didn't miss anything that I know of. Yeah, no, it was great, man. This was a great stream, dude.
Yeah, I
I gotta make
appreciate
sure
that.
I gotta make sure I go back and change the tags and stuff on this. So Aquascape, you know, people interested in aquascaping can see this. I need to tweak this bad boy tonight when we get off of here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, and that just goes back to what I've been trying to do with my channel all these years. Because when I first started, nobody helped me, honestly. You know, nobody would help me, you know, go through some of the challenges that I had to go through. I'm pretty much self-taught. There were so little people that helped me throughout the way. And that's why I've created my channel is to basically answer those questions and help the people get help that I never did. So, and I try to make as much videos on the little things that I can, some things that, you know, some other creators might not ever even think of, you know, to the small things of setting up CO2, even how to set up a canister filter, how to set up a light, how to hang a light, what height to keep your light at, just, you know, just stupid small things like that. To just, I think what makes my channel different, I'm just trying to help people, you know, expand the planet tank hobby and do what basically I never got the help of.
Okay, very good. Hey, you know, I'm trying to get out of here, but you just hit me with something. What is a good level, you know, to keep your light set? Alex, welcome in. Now, welcome in.
It totally depends on the wattage of your light. Of course, we're talking about real highlights and low lights. It just all depends, and plus it depends on what plants you're keeping as well. But in general, like a lot of these, like these two lights that are 130 watts a piece, very, very bright, they're hanging about 18, 20 inches above the tank. But if you're having plants that are very low demanding, most times you can have, there's lights that just hang on the rim of your tank that only sit about 4 inches above the tank. But I would say a good rule to at least start with is about a foot. And then if you need to lower or go higher from there, then you can. But a good starting point would be about 12 inches.
Gotcha. Hey, I see 20 eyes on this video right now. I want everybody to challenge everybody to share this video at least once to somebody or to somewhere. Because this we went down through here. We went down through it. This one here is a whole nother level. JJ, I'm gonna tell you, man, you're playing a part in a new direction per se that my streams are going. I'm not getting away from what I do already, but I was wanting to have a more not necessarily, yes, subject specific, but not, I'll never be the guy who's just gonna be sitting in there talking about the nitrogen cycle and blah blah blah. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. But for how would I describe it? Specialty subjects. There we go. That sounds good. I'm wanting to do more of those, because we flap around out here like fish out of water, pun intended. We flap around out here like, trying to do things. We're interested and we running around all these different videos. You're getting different aspects from different people, which sometimes is not even really helpful. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're getting it all at once.
Yeah, I always tell people there's a million ways, there's a million right ways to do stuff in this hobby. So especially with plant tanks, it's always so confusing. There's so many people that do different things. I would just pick from somebody you trust and go from there, learn what you can, and kind of branch off and do your own thing.
Yeah, all right. We're gonna get on out the door. I gotta go eat me some late dinner.
All right.
And I want to thank you very much once again. Thank everybody that hung in here with us tonight. Hey, this was great though. I can't say it enough, man. I cannot say it enough. I very much so appreciate you. I really do. Cause I've been trying to get you on for a minute, and now you're in here.
Yeah,
that's a good deal. That's a good deal. But yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll be glad to come back on again if we ever want to talk about other subjects. Let's do it. If we want to just focus on one thing at a time, we can definitely do that. But I'm more than glad to come back on for sure.
I got you. That'll work. Penciled in. All right, guys. You know what I say. Tell somebody you love them, because there's always somebody around you that needs to hear it. And take care of those fish. We out. Peace.
See you guys.